Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zachary Nolan. Welcome back. I gotta tell you, this is not gonna be a long video. It really isn't. However, and you could argue that it's not the most important video. However, it is a feel-good story for the Winnipeg Jets. As of late, everything we've heard, if you are a Jets fan like me, you've heard the Jets are going to be trading, the Jets are rebuilding, the Jets are having to move on, the Jets are not going to be competitive next year. And I have a couple news to that. First off is that technically we're not rebuilding. We're aggressively retooling, because that's all I have to take from that is on the context of we are not rebuilding, but also Hellebuck, Scheifele, Wheeler, and Pierre-Luc Dubois are all in the trade market. So you have to think that we are aggressively retooling. Now that may make you wonder, who's going to step up? Well, Brad Lambert has been a great story thus far in this year, and it didn't start out that way, lest we forget. So first off, let's talk about this. Brad Lambert drops in the draft to the 30th selection. The Winnipeg Jets earned that 30th selection because Andrew Kopp helps the New York Rangers make it to the third round in the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, they would lose in Game 6 against the Tampa Bay Lightning of that series, but because they made it, the Jets' second-round pick becomes a first-round pick. Kopp famously says sorry about the draft pick in the locker room, and the rest, there you go. Jets would select in the 30th position Brad Lambert, a man who was thinking to possibly be up in the later teens, early 20s, fall drastically on draft day for seemingly little reason. So the Jets select him at number 30, and the preseason's fine. He looks solid in the preseason. However, he's also very raw, very untested. So what do the Jets do? They don't put him into the Winnipeg Jets. Probably the right call. We cut to Brad Lambert in the World Junior Championship, and that is not a high moment for Brad Lambert. He only records one goal in the entire World Junior Championship. However, he's not very well liked and not really played often on the roster, and so his minutes were always cut. He never really got an opportunity. We put Brad on the AHL, and he has a great start, but again, he only manages 3 points in 15 games. And as a Jets fan, because we are a draft and developed team, your alarm bells are probably ringing right now. Like, Zach, what is the story? Please get to the good part, and I will. The Jets then loan him to the Seattle Thunderbirds, and he takes off. He begins to put up multiple multi-point nights. He's over a point per game. I believe he gets up to 38 points in the WHL, and it does not stop there. Brad Lambert then, with the help of a stacked Seattle Thunderbirds, nonetheless, leads the Thunderbirds to a Western Hockey League championship over the Winnipeg Ice in the West Final. And fun fact, I was there. I went to the West Final. Carter went to Game 1, where the Winnipeg Ice won Game 1. I went to Game 2, and Game 2, let me tell you, from first-hand experience, Game 2 was the Brad Lambert show, ladies and gentlemen. I believe Seattle won that game 4-2, and Brad Lambert was a +4. He had 2 goals on the night. He was absolutely robbed of the first star, and funnily enough, it seemed like nobody knew that he was a Jets prospect. He scored, and they were booing. And like, yes, I get it. He's playing against the Winnipeg Ice, but also, there's no one on the Winnipeg Ice that is going to play for the Winnipeg Jets. Like, yay, I'm happy if Winnipeg Ice does well, but at the same time, I care a hell of a lot more if Brad Lambert does well than the Winnipeg Ice. They're not related. We are not the same. And it was really funny because there's an unconscious feeling that the Winnipeg Ice management and the Winnipeg Jets management don't like each other. This was kind of cemented because Winnipeg Jets were just actively cheering on Brad Lambert, which they should do. They should do. But yeah, no, it was an interesting story too to see, because Brad Lambert almost led this Seattle Thunderbirds team over the Winnipeg Ice. They crushed them in 5 games. Honestly, for the most part, the Memorial Cup playoffs, with the culmination of all 3 playoffs, were really good for Winnipeg Jets prospects. Dominic DeVincentis earned the second All-Star team for the OHL as a goalie, and led the North Bay Battalion pretty deep into the playoffs. And even Danny Zilkin, who we talked about a couple months ago because he signed his entry-level contract, was traded from the Gulf Storm to the Kitchener Rangers, and they massively upset the Windsor Spitfires, who Shane Wright was on in the first round, shockingly sweeping them in 4 games. Like, this was a good playoffs. Like, honestly, this recent draft class is paying dividends for the Winnipeg Jets. The 2022 draft class is looking exceptional. The only one I haven't really heard anything about, Fabian Wagner, I haven't heard a lot about. However, Fabian Wagner had an exceptional World Junior Championships. And I haven't heard a lot about Garrett Brown, but if you go digging, you will find a lot of nice pieces on Garrett Brown. And then, of course, everyone else, Elias Salomonsson, Rutger McGroarty. I'm probably missing one, but I'm going to tell you, like, all of them have been hits. Brad Lambert, though, is just on another stratosphere right now. He got the opportunity to play in pretty much every position possible, like, in terms of, like, on-ice prowess. He was a centerman. He played on the wing a bit. They had him in all zones of the ice except for the penalty kill, which is totally understandable. The WHL, the Memorial Cup playoffs are not a place where we're going to experiment with a guy on the penalty kill. However, that doesn't mean that his two-way game is undeveloped. He played an extremely good, two-way game. The only problem is, of course, Seattle makes it to the Memorial Cup, their first ever Memorial Cup appearance in history, and unfortunately fall 5-0 to the Quebec Ramparts, coached by the legendary Patrick Waugh. Honestly, I watched that game. It was tough. Brad Lambert has a bad turnover, and it cost them the 3rd goal that makes it shorthanded. But again, doesn't all sit on Brad. The whole team just got absolutely outworked by the Quebec Ramparts team that was disciplined and extremely well organized. But that doesn't matter, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Brad Lambert still had an amazing postseason. And I think he could be a Winnipeg Jet next year. I think he's one of the most marketable people that the Winnipeg Jets have, especially since they are queued to lose a lot of marketable names in the organization. And we'll have to see what happens, obviously. But I feel better about Brad Lambert than I do about Chaz Lucius on some nights. And I love Chaz Lucius, and I love Rutger McGroarty. Brad Lambert looks like the safest bet out of those 3 to make the team next year. I'm not saying he will. He might get 1 more year in the AHL. But Brad Lambert is on the up and up, and you should be excited to see him as a Winnipeg Jet. So even when the team is not necessarily doing well, there are stars to watch. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this was a little bit informative to you if you weren't really sure, weren't keeping up with the WHL and some of the Winnipeg Jets prospects. I totally get that. I honestly, too, have been really disconnected from the Winnipeg Jets the last couple of while. I've been forced to stay wired on it because I have to report all news because I love doing this channel where I get to talk about Winnipeg Jets news. But trust me, I get the disconnect for Jets fans. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.